What is up, Superman and Lois fans? Welcome back to a brand new review, breakdown, and recap. As you can tell, I've got my Superman hoodie on. I am ready to talk about episode 6 of season 2, and this was super interesting. I like just the areas it went to. As usual, it feels like they're stepping up the severity of things each and every episode, but I feel like this episode, with what's going on with Bizzaro, getting a little bit more context into him. As we all knew, we all felt some kind of empathy there for him, even though he came across monstrous. It was a bit of like a Beauty and the Beast in the terms of, okay, that's a bit of a weird example, but there was more beneath the exterior of that beast, and that was really nicely shown in that little beginning montage of the kind of inverse slash Bizarro world. So without wasting any more time, guys, I'm going to kind of get straight into that. Go ahead and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it. I know everyone asks you to do that, but clicking that thumbs up button on your phone, your laptop, your PC, whatever you're watching this on now, really does help me out. And hey, if you're brand new here, hey, maybe consider subscribing. You might think you're subscribed as well, and a lot of people keep telling me that, saying, hey, you're actually right. I felt like I was subscribed to you for a year, but it just turned out your videos were getting recommended to me on my homepage. So as I was saying, that beginning part where the camera was following Bizzaro, that was super interesting, because we don't have the full context of what has gone on with his family, but there were definitely seeds planted there as we followed Bizzaro getting to a point in his life and his world where he wanted to stop Ali Alston so much, where he crossed over to our world, even though I felt like that was very ambiguous with how they played him getting here, because it wasn't really thoroughly explained. All I mean by that is in how he like darted down into the mines, and then somehow that just meant he ended up here. Yes, he was depowered by the XK, but from what we know, what is established on the show so far, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm always open to being corrected, is that you have to be basically on the brink of death to kind of almost like be able to see your other version of yourself. So I don't know how just diving into the mines, even though that was an awesome shot with him just plummeting down in there, how that allowed him to get over to our world. Maybe it was the fact that he had the amulet. Back to what I was saying, you can see in the Kent farm, in this kind of more apocalyptic version of the Kent farm, the barn was like half stripped down, the Kent farmhouse itself looked beaten, and just, yeah, it just felt like if any of you have played any of Bethesda's Fallout games, it just looks like you're wandering around the wasteland. What was interesting is, as Bizzaro was initially walking towards or past this cat, there were these canisters, the same ones that Jonathan uses to inhale XK. So I wonder if in this world, his son, as we see of whom is crossed out, along with Lois on this world, in the photographs, went rogue. For some reason, Jonathan didn't end up good in that world, but I want to know why Lois, as you can see on screen, is crossed out. Maybe she died and he just doesn't want to remember that, but the only person left behind is Jordan, which is super intriguing. So that's just some food for thought there, because other than those teasers, we don't get super clarification on that. But it's interesting to know that, he went to Ali Alston's offices. You can see everything's in reverse here, but really it says when he enters that room on that little logo there, the Inverse Society. But how could I forget that like corridor shot? Now, this is, a little bit weird, and you could say this does get nitpicky, but in that room, when Bizarro version of Superman, which does almost reverse kind of somewhat mirror our Superman later on in the episode. Thank you, you bloody frickin' Lieutenant Anderson, for doing that, just jumping to my thoughts on that, you arsehole. But no, really, seeing this moment, again, nitpicky, I guess, because yes, I could gather that those lights were even depowering Bizzaro in that room, so I was thinking at first, like, okay, makes sense with how he's punching these military guards even in his inverse world. But then we had that superpowered Lana, who in this world, Lana, I guess, is one of the kind of Supermen or of Steel or whatever akin kind of reverse team the Captain Anderson of that world had set up, which was a pretty cool surprise to see. But when she like zoomed in and punched the Bizzaro Clark, all of a sudden his punches were like superpowered against her. So that was a little bit of a thing that bothered me. I don't know why. Sometimes they just can't keep up consistency. This may not bother you, but what I'm saying is, just as what we saw with Clark later with those lights on the wall, he was punching the Marines, Anderson's Marines. I'm glad, by the way, that he didn't take that shit like a bitch. Like, he was like, you know what, Anderson, I know I'm Superman, but I will do a bit of fisticuffs with your guys, because I'm not taking this. So he was punching them, but he was depowered. And so was Bizzaro in this beginning scene, which I keep repeating. But when Lana came in with her Kryptonian abilities, I guess you could say akin to that of Tag, of what we've seen, when Bizzaro punched her, it was like a proper super punch. So I was just like, what happened to the depowering, if you know what I mean? Again, a bit nitpicky, but it's just one of those typical things sometimes in network shows that they just kind of hope that you forget a little bit. But hey, as I always say, like, I want to be completely fair. Please do call me out, or maybe try and fix my perspective if you think my perspective is off there. But these shows aren't always the most perfect, even though Superman and Lois is like up here compared to other CW shows. It's just sometimes they do not always pay attention to the little things. Just the little things sometimes slide by, whether that's a little bit of plot convenience or a rule of cool moment, which this could have been, just for the sake of making it look a little bit cooler. Let's forget about how he shouldn't be able to punch like that. But I'm going to shut up now and continue on. But this obviously continued on in the Fortress of Solitude. It was all like a telling of where Bizzaro is at. And I do still feel like, I wouldn't say I'm sided with Bizzaro or anything, but I like how much they're humanizing him here. Like, he's not just like a evil reverse Superman for the reverse sake. So not only is he reverse in powers, like his dragon breath and stuff, but, you know, reverse in evil, because he doesn't seem that way. I mean, sure, Superman says, "You almost killed my friend," but as Bizzaro says, because he attacked me. Like, you know, I think that is a fair justification. I mean, maybe you could argue Superman would have incapacitated that person, and arguably he did. Like, he didn't kill him. I mean, he could have killed him, but yeah, like, without me rambling about that too much, Bizzaro could have, like, executed, let's just say, John Henry Irons back at the Ken farm, but he looked at him after he got smacked with the camera, could have gone over to him, but he didn't. He flew off. So, you know, I argue that Bizzaro is pretty tame. And in this moment, he did really heavily stress what he's willing to do, which I suppose this is a bit of the inverse version that Bizzaro is of our Kal-El, in that he wants to kill Ali. Like, but I think he has been pushed to that, and arguably, as we've seen with Superman in, like, you know, in Injustice or things, he can be pushed to a certain perspective sometimes. Not that that is always the mainstream thing, but he is a character capable of that, despite embodying such a faith in humanity, and just to kind of jump to it, even though he's been arrested at the end of this, I wouldn't be remotely surprised if he's pissed, but he's just like, well, it doesn't mean I'm going to wreck all humans because you've arrested me. I'm going to try and sort this out and still love you guys. Like, I just believe you guys are misunderstanding the situation. But anyway, the kind of end game here with what they're trying to prevent is what Bizzaro said. This artifact is somewhat as old as time. It was born when our world split. I would love to know when the world split. Like, was that a thing that just happened? If he says it's as old as time, so the world's this inverse thing in of itself, just kind of like how the Big Bang happened, and I guess parallel universes from there on out, or I guess you could say crisis, I don't know, also created a inverse universe thing as well since the beginning of time. I don't really know. It's probably looking a bit too into it there. But he says if it's paired with its counterpart, it can elevate the possessor into godhood. And my god, I don't want to look at a godhood level Ali Alston. That would, I don't know why. She's just nothing against the actor, obviously, but I'm just saying they make you love to hate her. It's like, screw you, Ali. But that's a good thing. That's what they want you to feel like. He maintains that all that matters is that the pendant is destroyed. He was unable to because he doesn't have the strength on this earth because the yellow sun weakens him. But he says there is a more certain way to end this, and that's through killing Ali. Now, I think some of you were commenting saying, I think there's like a plot hole with the pendant thing. And I was thinking, oh, wait, maybe you're right. But then I think I figured it out in that some of you were saying that how does Anderson have the pendant if Ali had the pendant last episode? And I was thinking, wait, yeah, that does seem a bit inconsistent, because if Anderson has the pendant and Superman needs to get it off him, how did Chrissy get resurrected last episode? Again, I think that's the situation of these two pendants. It's just now they're both here, because we can't forget that the very flashback we saw at the beginning of this episode showed the Bizarro Kal-El, if you will, or El Kal. I don't know if that's what it is in reverse, but either way, okay, jokes aside, he took the pendant from the inverse world, Ali Alston, brought it to our world, and Ali in our world had a pendant, or this pendant in our world, from ever since she was a little girl. Now, the pendant that Tag took was the one that Bizzaro brought from his world, and that's why Anderson has still got it, all while Chrissy was resurrected with Ali's pendant last episode. I hope you're still with me there, but that's why there are two different pendants, and why two different characters are seemingly having this pendant, and that's why it's actually such an impending threat, because both pendants are now in the same universe, and if they get merged together, I guess, so to speak, it could ascend Ali to godhood, although, you know, I guess Bizzaro did say that she had to also merge with her other self, not just the pendant. Now, yeah, I've got on the bullet point, the only way to make sure she can't use it to merge with her other self. So I guess even if you have both pendants, you need to merge with your other self to ascend to godhood. I don't know, but this is probably reading a bit too into the details here, but hopefully that somewhat explains some of the double pendant situation that may have been confusing some of you. Which brings us to that moment with Anderson. And I've got a couple of theories with what happened at the end of the episode based off of this, because we have that, the superior officer, at least, of Lieutenant Anderson, Hardcastle, and she was laying it down thick to Anderson, and he needed this. And where she was just like, Sam Lane never once, over all the time, had a single problem with Superman. Not one. Now, I don't know if I believe that. I mean, I get what she was saying, but I'm pretty sure General Lane, over the years with Superman, some of the other military people hanging around would have seen some kind of tension between the discourse they had at times, albeit nothing on the level of the ignorance and distrusting relationship that Anderson has with Superman. But either way, when she's just like, you've been here for 6 months, done this, done that, you've also deteriorated the relationship of our country's best defense system, which is Superman. So the fact that she was laying so hard into him made me question that he had to run it up the chain of command to do what he did later. If that is true, that he got the sign-off from higher up to do what he did to Superman later, that will really piss me off, because she was really pissed off on behalf of, like, how he has basically rubbed Superman up the wrong way, and it's like, you shouldn't do that. Like, he's a good man, and it looks like, if anything, you're to blame. You represent this Department of Defense area. So if she signed off on that, I really hope that isn't the case, and he was just saying that to Superman later, and it's just something that, as we've speculated before, I think even of last week's review, that Anderson might do something out of such desperation that it might turn him into a little bit of, as what we've been saying even since before season 2 rolled, excuse the Marvel term, but that of a bit of a US agent kind of thing. Through such ambition to do the right thing, he does a bit of a shady thing or two, and it makes it a bit complex that way. So I really hope it has gone down that route. I do question the allegiance of the soldiers at that point, because they're all going to get screwed when Command hears about it, if that is the case. But it still is yet to be seen if Command did sign off on this. But I'm assuming, and I would love your thoughts as well, if you think Anderson did what he did at the end, because, as he said himself, I'm doing kind of what I have to do. And all of this was all brewed about, as we saw, like, at the funeral. He's just getting, even after that conversation with Hardcastle, or whatever her name was, he seemed, like, humiliated in a way. At the funeral, he got a slap across the face, so it's just kind of digging it in even more. As a result, his frustration and tense relationship with Superman, it's like he's projecting even more onto him, because he reveals to Anderson that he's actually got Bizzaro at the fortress, and he's just like, are you kidding me? So you can see, I like kind of how organic it is in terms of, if only Anderson could see it another way, but the way he is seeing it, I guess, just makes sense with how he's got this certain mindset about things. And in this moment, by the way, I don't know if anyone just felt like this, the shots we have had of Tyler in that kind of graveyard funeral setting, I don't know why, he just looks so Superman to me, and the way he was trying to, you know, still calmly, diplomatically deal with Anderson in that moment. It just still spoke to such Superman almost cadence, where you have Anderson just flying off the lid the whole time. Like, this also just adds into a bit of the distrust thing that he says later. I don't know if I like the catalyst for what happened later, and we'll get to that when we get to that, but here it's just like new information has come to light, and the way Anderson will see this is, oh, I could have done with knowing about that information, but it's like, bitch, please, like, you didn't tell him that your super team went in to face Bizzaro, and then they ended up getting killed, so you're both miscommunicating, and, like, you can't blame Superman, because you're just I don't know, you get what I'm trying to say. Anderson's an annoying character, but an entertaining one. Either way, though, we hear Superman hear an avalanche, all the way in Russia, I believe it was, and this is what I mean, because we have Anderson in this moment, but, like, follow where he's going, and all Superman did, all he did, was save a village from a village. Innocent people getting crushed in an avalanche. And later on, that officer of his, whoever reported back with the results, this is kind of what rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if this was the best way to kind of be the straw that broke the camel's back for Anderson deciding what he was going to do, because through learning what Superman did, through saving innocent people, and I know this goes back to the whole debate of his allegiance isn't just to America, it's the whole world, and whole submarine thing, and how he was just like in the first episode where you could have kind of landed that submarine on our shore so we could have learned a bit more about it. But here, all he did in Russia was just save the people. So he learned that Superman saved those people from the avalanche. His literal response was almost as if he was pissed off hearing that. And it's just like, you know, he's never got to tell me things I need to know. He just doesn't trust me. And I was just like, what? All he did was save people. The submarine thing, I guess it's not even understandable in a way, but I can get what Anderson was going on with, like, hey, like, you didn't have to give it back to them, because that just gives them still, from a military perspective, an advantage or whatever. But here, all Superman did was save people in another country. And even if that country has like some kind of tensions between that of the USA and Russia or whatever, it's just still a little bit like, why are you flying? Why is this the straw that breaks the camel's back? Do you expect Superman to let the Russian village just get completely wiped out and, you know, destroyed by the avalanche, and women, children, and everything just die? Like, it's just, I don't really like how they did that. I just wish something more believable happened with Superman, where he learns that, yet again, Superman didn't tell him a piece of information that he found out about. And we understand as an audience why Superman might not have done that because of Anderson and everything. And that made him feel like he's never going to tell me what I need to know. But for that to just be saving people, which there's actually nothing wrong with, no matter what country it's in, I don't think that was enough for even Anderson to do that. It just makes him look like an absolute arsehole. And maybe that is all it is, but I just don't really believe it, even with Anderson being an arsehole. One thing I will say, though, and I know this may be a nitpick for some, I'm just going to say it, the Avalanche action scene was awesome in terms of I love seeing, and this is something that I've said that this show still needs to do with a Superman show. You need to show him saving the world, because when he can hear anything or anything happening in the world, you're going to have to incorporate how he does do the Call of Duty and just fly off like he does. But the CGI of when those people were standing in the snow when he looked back, my God, was that bad. Like, they were just standing on flat ground. Their feet weren't even in the snow. Yeah, you're probably seeing it on screen. Some of you may not appreciate or don't care about details like that as much, or can't really tell on first glance, but to me, that was woefully apparent. I still am really enjoying the Jordan and Jonathan storyline, and their relationship and brother relationship's been fantastic, and here it just maintains, because here he's just checking up on this brother. Not only is he kind of eager for him, but he feels a little bit disingenuous, I guess, keeping it from his parents. He knows that his brother's still playing football. It's still a little bit like, so he's still asking him about cold breath, or like, you know, if you get the super hearing, with how he knew how much he struggled with that last season, how bad that could lead to, like, even, you know, the ocular discharges or whatever he said they were, which, yeah, it does sound a bit cringe, I have to admit, as Jonathan basically said. He's just a concerned brother, but we know what XK is doing. It was very clear that it was a similar storyline to that of if you do take a certain drug or drugs in real life, it can have a personality change, and that is exactly what is happening to Jonathan. But here, the seeds were planted with how the inhaler dropped out. It was a bit sus to begin with Jordan being like, hey, okay, an inhaler, right, for your girlfriend. Okay. And then next thing we know that Jonathan has indeed made the team. Like, he will be playing in a game against people, I believe the coach said, the Gators, that they've not even won a single game against in 6 years. This carries on at school with Jordan being like, maybe we should tell mum and dad. Jonathan still keeps getting pissed off about this. But before we dive back into that, let's talk about some of the Kyle and Lana stuff. Now, here we have Sarah and Jordan talk about, you know, the situation going on with her dad. She was like, it's like he tricked us into believing he was this good guy all while he was banging some random bartender or whatever. But Kyle comes home and apologizes to Lana. I can already foresee that this storyline might be annoying some people, but I do feel like it's an important story to tell. And I don't mean it in any woke kind of way or whatever. It's just like this is still a Smallville family show in terms of, like, I mean, genuinely, it's about Superman, Lois. Superman and Lois, as per the title, the family, the kids, and we have that reflected in the heart of Smallville through the Cushing family. And they're dealing with a very real problem, and that's, you know, Kyle cheating on Lana. This is something that people who are watching the show at whatever age may have done themselves, teenagers with parents who may have been going through this as the show is happening, or previously, or may come to happen. It can just give a perspective on it that is important, I suppose, to somewhat just bring up. Later on, he basically apologized to her, saying it lasted 6 months. She was in his house once, and she starts asking these questions. Did you love her? And he says no. He comes up with certain things. And by the way, it is an interesting multifaceted thing, because this stuff is never black and white. It's always so interestingly navigated in real life, and everyone's different at the same time. This isn't a freaking relationship counseling video. But again, I feel like the way they are portraying it is not being too invasive on, oh, this is how it should be dealt with. It's just presenting a fairly typical-esque kind of thing where, you know, you have like Kyle saying, yeah, he always knew that Lana was the one the whole time. Yeah, I was just kind of thinking, well, if that's the case, then, you know, if you love someone, you maybe wouldn't do that. But at the same time, it's not always as black and white as that. And I believe they were going through strains at the time. Not that that condones or excuses Kyle's actions, but it technically might not mean that he doesn't love her. It's just, it's a filthy, like, rabbit hole to get down, to be honest. And you can also understand, and what I like with what they included in the writing here is that Lana has this self-respect to still ask him to leave. And then after that, we have Lana going into the bar and confronting Tonya, and basically when she learns that that Kyle broke it off after what happened with Sarah, that was a bit of a straw that broke the camel's back for her to make a decision for the foreseeable future, because it makes it look to her as though, okay, and this is the interesting thing and why I like how they're writing that Lana has quite a bit of self-respect instead of just instantly forgiving Kyle. It's not that she doesn't properly love him, and even though she was questioning that in the end, it does genuinely seem as though in a lot of these situations in real life, it's like if that incident with Sarah, their daughter, didn't happen and everything was happy-go-lucky with Sarah at the time, would Kyle have left Tonya? If that didn't happen, you can assume maybe, for all intents and purposes, that he would have still cracked on with Tonya. But it only maybe didn't in this world because of what happened with Sarah with her attempt, made him think, okay, I need to be here for my family, shut things off with Tonya. Then, as a result, things got all closer and, you know, they repaired things, the marriage got better, all up until present day. But it makes Lana think in her brain, well, if that never happened, actually, would you still be here? Like, would you still have been flourishing with Tonya and your relationship with her? So, again, it's very, I would say, nuanced and fairly decent representation of one of the many complex adaptations of a mess like this you can possibly bring to screen. Now, Sam Lane turned up at the farm. I thought maybe, oh god, is he just turning up to train the boys and he would just have to be like, oh yeah, no, they're not here? Oh, okay, I was just saying, do you want a coffee? But no, it turned out they brought Lucy there. Now, this was nice, but I didn't think it was going to last, and it didn't. It was just nice seeing Lucy, that kind of bury the hatchet for now and just kind of, you know, she later in other scenes, she was speaking with the boys. It was just like, she's been there all day, as Lois said, and it was nice. And it seemed nice as well before the game kicked off. But it didn't last long, because obviously when the game did indeed kick off, it was nice to begin with, but then, oh, okay, you know, and it did get into some, I mean, I think this is ultimately going to be a revelation that will probably finally evolve Lucy, because she's not going to believe it until she sees it, unfortunately, which is ironic considering she kind of did believe it to see what Allie was on about. But what I mean is, like, as she said, she was almost condoning Allie's actions, and as Lois said, as a result, drugged against your will, doesn't that behavior even concern you? And she's just like, sometimes you have to just show the people the truth, and it's like, damn, that is really extremist, zealoty kind of behavior. Like, as Lois said, do you even hear yourself? That is textbook extreme behavior. It's like she was genuinely justifying that, and it's like, damn, like she, you know, you can be quite far gone in a culty-esque mind state when you start really starting to justify actions like that, like truly. And god, that must be a difficult situation to navigate. And this is another thing, because I'm not saying every family out there has got a relative like this, but there are some people probably watching the show understanding at least maybe someone who may have gone down a road like Lucy with being, I guess, brainwashed by something. I can't comment on that too much, but I'm just sure this is somewhat of another representation where some people can understand it from Lucy's perspective, but also see what Lois is trying to make her see, but the miscommunication just, or the lack of being receptive to it from Lucy just isn't happening. Like, Lois just keeps hitting that block, and as a result, they keep, like, pissing each other off, and it's just, they're not getting anywhere. Now, I thought in this game, when Jonathan was slaying with his passes and whatnot, that Clark was gonna basically see that is not natural. Him, for his own super ability and zoom in skills like Jonathan was showing, was going to notice that's a bit too precise maybe, but he had to fly off, and we all know what that was about, so he would get frickin' arrested for treason, which is ridiculous. But yeah, Jonathan, man, I guess it's just more drama, I suppose, that I'm into right now. Like, he's going down that sketchy path, the dark path. Jordan, who was only kind of upset with his brother and kind of pissed off, they'd been not only lying to him, but also it was just in that moment, like, acting like a proper dick again. What subverted my expectations was Jonathan, when they got back home, apologizing, even saying that the win was basically not authentic and it felt fake. So he was wrong for doing that. It basically was a fruitless endeavor that he kind of knew beforehand. That he was even taking the piss out of Timmy for, because it's like, oh yeah, getting there through cheating, and then he did it himself, and it's like, oh, lo and behold, it's not anything to behold, if that makes sense. But I know we've kind of already spoken about this earlier, as I kind of do tend to dart about the place sometimes, but what I love about what Superman and Lois is doing, to add a little bit more into it, is that this time we had the coinciding scenes. This show often does that when they have gold going on in two different areas. Tension between Jordan and Jonathan, heat vision flexing up, oh god, what's gonna happen? But at the same time, Superman is punching US military. I'm so glad he did that. That's what I meant by he's not taking like a kind of little bitch kind of situation, because what I mean by that strictly is Superman, in a lot of iterations, and maybe this even rubbed people the wrong way, saying Superman wouldn't do that, but in this situation I felt like he did it, and he did it for the right reason, and that is fighting back, because this is ridiculous. He doesn't deserve this. He doesn't. So he did start fighting back. And Anderson got to the point where he shot him with kryptonite bullets. It's like, God damn it. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I guess without rambling too much more, Lois learns about this from Sam. I guess, he's got somebody on the inside who said, yeah, Superman Clark, he's been arrested for treason. I have to wait till this fully unfolds to fully understand how I feel about if somebody signed off on that. Why did all the soldiers follow this? Is that kind of soldier loyalty under being, under Lieutenant Anderson's command? But if he did do that, and that is kind of almost like his own defective military decision, did they all risk such a defection from a military order? I don't know. That's the kind of territory I'm thinking there. And Jonathan, with the Jordan drop, with what he said about how Timmy, like the police are involved, I'm guessing that might be how Lois and Clark find out. In more of a messy situation than maybe what I thought would happen. I thought it'd be like a drop in some other way. But now, I guess if the police are following this up, I can imagine they might turn up at the house saying we have reason to believe that the knowledge, obviously with his girlfriend being the dealer, I suppose, as to who gave it to Timmy. Timmy will give that information to the police. That will go back to Jonathan's girlfriend, and Jonathan's girlfriend, whether she admits it or not, it will somehow get back to Jonathan being a user, and then back to Lois and Clark. And my God, am I kind of looking forward to Lois going ham at Jonathan. It's going to be entertaining. But that is everything, guys. Ramble over. What did you think of Superman and Lois episode 6? What did you think of my thoughts on this episode? Do you have any theories moving forward? I would love to hear everything. Another really entertaining episode, I think. We can't forget that John Henry Irons is going to wake up at some point as well. Like, he's taken a bit of a backseat recently, but almost forgot to mention him and what could happen with him this season. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Do check out my Batman review. It's a no spoilers review. I know it's a long one, but you know me here. I talk a lot, as you can tell from this video. I didn't even mention a single spoiler, believe it or not, in a big-ass video like that. So check it out if you want a companion piece going into your first viewing, but also just for a solid takeaway, I feel, from me getting into every facet of the Batman. But like this video, if you did enjoy it, do consider subscribing for more content like this. But I'm going to love you and leave you, everyone. So thank you again. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.